Americans have had enough of identity politics. Don't believe me? With less than a week to go to the US presidential election, Vice President and Democratic candidate Kamala Harris appears to be struggling with precisely the group she was supposed to be inspiring. Given Harris's total lack of substance, likability, or even stable political positions, her outriders have often focused their rhetoric on what a Kamala victory would supposedly symbolise or represent. Elevating the first mixed-raced female president, they argue, would be a tremendous moment of healing and uplift for America, especially for America's ethnic minorities. The only snag is, ethnic minorities don't seem to have got the memo. While the polls remain pretty tight in general, Harris is definitely losing ground among black and Hispanic voters, particularly blue-collar men. Meanwhile, according to Nate Cohn of the New York Times, Republican nominee Donald Trump is on course to fare better among black and Hispanic voters combined than any Republican presidential nominee since the enactment of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. According to New York Times Siena College polling, Harris is beating Trump by 78% to 15% among black voters and by 56% to 37% among Hispanic voters. Other polls, meanwhile, have suggested that Trump might even be pulling ahead among Hispanics and faring better among black Americans. In any case, Democratic support among African Americans, the backbone of the Democratic coalition in many ways, appears to be significantly down from where it was even in the recent past. Hillary Clinton won 92% of black voters in 2016, and Barack Obama won 95% at his peak in 2008. If the polling is at all accurate, therefore, Harris could be about to chalk up the worst performance of any Democratic candidate among black voters since the 1960s. As the Democrats have tried to stem these losses, they've shown us why so many people are turning away from them in the first place. Harris recently launched an opportunity agenda for black men, which reads like it was written by a racist AI chatbot. Two of its key planks are legalizing marijuana and protecting cryptocurrency investments. The former is particularly outrageous, given Harris's record of aggressively prosecuting weed-related crimes when she was California's Attorney General and San Francisco's District Attorney.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
When patronising black men didn't work, Harris's team just scolded them instead. Obama was recently dispatched to lecture them for refusing to fall in line. During an appearance at a campaign office in Pittsburgh recently, he accused black men of coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses for the fact that they just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president.
That's not acceptable. This shouldn't even be a question.
They really can't help themselves. Whenever formerly faithful voters dare to defy the Democratic establishment, the response is always to accuse them of being bigots or idiots or both.
Basket of deplorables.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
In 2016, Gloria Steinem accused young women who were backing Hillary Clinton's primary rival, Bernie Sanders, of just wanting to be with the boys.
And when you're young, you're thinking, you know, where are the boys? The boys are with Bernie.
Since then, twice failed Georgia governor candidate Stacey Abrams has blamed black men's supposed susceptibility to misinformation for her own electoral failures. Just as the Democrats found out to their cost in 2016 that they couldn't take their old working-class Rust Belt base for granted, this election could well witness a revolt against the Democratic Party that has taken to addressing the electorate as a series of ethno-religious blocs. Harris and co are dead wrong to think that voters will happily back the candidate who most resembles them, or will be dazzled by patronising policy announcements or the endorsements of various black and brown celebrities. Pundits and political scientists who, after Obama's victory in 2008, were arrogantly pontificating about a young, diverse coalition of the ascendant that would lock in democratic success for generations, are now seeing that coalition breaking down in multiple different directions. This revolt has been stirring for some time. Despite Donald Trump being smeared as a white supremacist by an increasingly hysterical liberal media, he has consistently grown the Republican support among ethnic minorities. Trump's share of the nationwide black, Hispanic and Asian votes in 2016 were 2, 2 and 3 points greater, respectively, than Mitt Romney's in 2012, notes the Wall Street Journal. Even as he lost in 2020, Trump improved on his own performance among these segments by 4, 3 and 5 points respectively. As David Shaw, a top Democratic consultant and data analyst, points out, racial polarization had been steadily increasing in America from 1992 up until 2016, but then Trump exploded onto the scene and sent it into reverse.
We will make America great again.
Black, Hispanic and Asian Americans are increasingly rejecting the patronising notion that a black, Hispanic or Asian American in the White House will instantly elevate their prospects and self-esteem. Indeed, Kamala Harris's rocky path to the Democratic top table amply demonstrates this. After all, she flamed out of the Democratic primary in 2019, in large part because of her poor polling among African Americans. When Joe Biden made Harris's vice presidential pick, it was hailed as a boost to his prospects with black voters, even though he had always been much more popular with black voters than Harris was.
We did it, Joe.
Unsurprisingly, people do not simply vote for the candidate whose skin shade they most share. Meanwhile, Trump has benefited from what used to be a pretty fundamental insight of the political left, that working class voters of all pigmentations have a lot more in common than the elites often like to let on. Trump appears to be benefiting from the obvious fact that the economic interests and cultural outlook of, say, a Latino construction worker and a white construction worker really aren't all that different. They're both outraged by gender ideology, illegal immigration, and the Biden-Harris administration's zealous pursuit of net zero penury. Most strikingly, the man who imposed a ban on immigration from 7 Muslim-majority countries and is a staunch ally of Benjamin Netanyahu is even doing surprisingly well among Muslim and Arab Americans. Indeed, Donald Trump has helped to rebuild the Republicans' hitherto terrible standing among American Muslims following the so-called war on terror. According to one exit poll in 2020, he may even have won as much as a third of Muslim voters in that election. And he has gained some eye-catching endorsements in this campaign. Earlier this month, Trump was endorsed by Amir Ghalib, the Muslim Democratic mayor of Hamtramck in Michigan, America's only Muslim-majority city. Trump is hardly the perfect vessel for this emerging multiracial populism, but he is certainly the beneficiary of a Democratic Party that has abandoned the interests of the working class and arrogantly treated certain minorities as its own personal property.
Black men are saying, you know what, I'm done with this.
Kamala Harris may be about to find out that many black or Hispanic or Muslim voters are sick of being forced into boxes.
There is no Latino vote. There is Americans vote.
Sick of their interests being conflated with those of vapid career politicians.
Just don't believe in what she says.
And sick of being taken for granted by politicians who claim to represent them.